In today's video, we're going to talk about how to get high quality leads for your med spa. I'm going to give you the exact blueprint on how to do it. This is for you if you've ever run ads with an agency before and they just gave you a whole bunch of low quality leads. So, low quality leads being someone who submits their information on your ad and then they don't pick up the phone, or if they do pick up the phone, you have to answer 1,000 different questions and then they don't end up booking in anyways. Or if they do book in, they end up showing up and they don't buy a treatment plan or a package. They only were ever interested in the discounted first thing and they just don't really take your treatments that seriously. So if you're sick and tired of wasting your time with individuals like that and you'd much rather work with people who understand the value of your treatments and are willing to pay the prices of your higher ticket treatments, then stick around for this video because I'm going to share some specific strategies with you. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Josh. I'm the founder of Wellness Leads. I specifically work with med spas and aesthetic practices to help them book more qualified aesthetic consults. In 2024, I booked just under 1,000 appointments myself by picking up the phone and speaking with leads. And that gave me a really good opportunity to see what the difference was between a low quality lead and a high quality lead and what things we could do in order to get more of those high quality leads. So without further ado and without wasting any time here, what we want to talk about first here is why people love leads that come in from Google or organic ads. And the reason I wanted to start with this is because I have talked to so many med spas and aesthetic practices before that talk about how much they love the leads that just find them organically on Google and end up giving them a call, or they run Google ads and people are typing in like cool sculpting near me and then they give them a call and they rave and they go on and on about how amazing and awesome those leads are. Well, why do we love those leads, right? These leads are well researched. They've already Googled all of their questions. And now that they're typing in cool sculpting near me, they're pretty much ready to buy, right? They've moved themselves up what's called the buyer's pyramid. And so that's why I want to take a second to explain here. So, this is what the buyer's pyramid is. It basically says that out of all of the people who would ever consider purchasing one of your treatments, 30% of them know that they're definitely not interested, right? 30% of people that are in the potential market of someone who could benefit from your treatment, 30% of them know for sure they're not interested. They never will be. 30% of people don't think they're interested, right? So they're not they don't have, given their current level of information, they don't think that they're interested in that treatment. 30% of people aren't thinking about it. They're neutral, right? They could kind of be swayed one way or another, but they're not like actively looking for it. 6 to 7% of people are open to the idea, right? They're like, huh, I would consider doing that. And then 3% of people are buying now. So 3% of people are actively in the market looking to make to purchase that treatment. And so the issue is that a lot of the times we focus on this 3% and we forget the rest of this pyramid. So most people focus on the 3% of people who are ready to go, they're excited, they've done their research and they're ready to buy now, and they completely ignore the people that are open to the idea but not quite ready to buy, the people who aren't really thinking about it, and the people who don't think that they're interested given their current level of information. And so I want you to imagine it this way. I want to give you a specific example. Let's say that we have somebody named Susie, and Susie has some stubborn fat on her stomach. She currently has no intention of ever getting any body sculpting treatments. She doesn't think about body sculpting. She wants to focus primarily on her diet and her exercise to try to get rid of this stubborn fat on her stomach. After staying super strict for months and months on her diet and her exercise, she starts to get super frustrated that the fat just isn't going away. One day she turns on the TV and there's a commercial about this amazing technology she's never heard of before called Cool Sculpting that helps women take care of this stubborn fat without crazy dieting or exercise. Wow, that sounds great for her, right? Because she's dealing with that exact issue. She thinks it sounds interesting, but she still has her doubts. She's pretty skeptical. She thinks it's a scam. She forgets about it the next day. Then Susie sees an ad on Instagram about cool sculpting and its success rate. She gets curious and has some time to kill, and so she starts rapidly Googling all of her questions about cool sculpting. What is cool sculpting? How does cool sculpting actually work? Is cool sculpting worth it? Is it safe? How long does it take to see results? Will it get rid of lower belly fat? What's the cost of cool sculpting? So on and so forth. Just all the things that you would typically think about. She finds a lot of helpful information. She's now open to the idea of cool sculpting. She's not sold yet, but she's like, huh, I would consider it. Now, more time goes by. The fat on her stomach isn't going anywhere. She gets increasingly more frustrated because she's dieting and exercising and it's just not going away. And then one day she's staring at a piece of cake trying to resist her temptations and she's had enough. She's fed up. She decides to Google cool sculpting near me. She clicks around to a few different med spas in her area. She finds one that she likes. She gives them a call and she sets up a consultation. Now, why do we like these leads? Why are they so awesome? Well, they've already answered 80% of their questions. A lot of them also have a general idea of how much it's going to cost them. And so, over time, basically what happened is Susie went from not interested in body sculpting right now to I'm ready to buy cool sculpting. And the med spa who got her business was the lucky one that she decided was a good fit for her for whatever reason. Maybe they had the nicest looking people on their website. Maybe they had the nicest looking office. Maybe they were closest to her, whatever her decision criteria was. If you're lucky, Susie only called one med spa. Most likely, what she's doing is she's going to call multiple med spas to get an idea of pricing, right? And so the problem here is that leads like this are awesome, right? Because they come in educated. They're giving you a call and they've already done all of this research. And so they have a really good idea of exactly what's going on. And they already have a good idea of the pricing. So there's a lot less selling that you have to do. But the issue is that they don't come very often, right? As I demonstrated in our example, people take time to go from not being interested at all to being ready to make a purchase. And most people never get there on their own, right? Most people just stay stuck in their problem and they just continue to struggle with like the dieting and the exercising. They're like, oh, I wish there was a solution for this. This sucks, but they're not willing or open to try anything, right? So people just stay stuck there. So the question is, instead of sitting around and waiting for these people to appear on our doorstep, how do we create them? Right? And I know that sounds kind of wacky, but how do we create those leads? How do we create those people? How do we shorten the sales cycle so that we can personally take someone from not being interested at all to being ready to buy while also seeing us as the only logical choice for them? Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video here. So here's the thing, right? Leads want answers. Leads have questions and they want answers. Okay. You have your leads have questions and they want answers. Let's say that you're running Facebook ads and you're running them to a cool sculpting offer of some sort. Out of all of the leads that you generate, most of them are just interested, but they need more information, right? You have to keep in mind that them submitting their information does not mean they're ready to buy. It's only them saying, I'm interested, but I need more information. You have to remember 3% of your leads are ready to buy. The other 90% of your leads that you get from any advertising, they're not ready to buy. They're just interested. And so, what do these leads do? Well, these leads are either going to want more information, but they're way too lazy to go find the answers themselves, or they're going to go try to find that information themselves. Both of these options are terrible for you as the business owner. The people who are too lazy, what they end up doing is they ghost all of your texts and calls. And if they do pick up your call, they're going to ask you a million gazillion different questions over the phone and then tell you that they're not interested at the end of the at the call, or they'll be like, oh, I'll call you back. I'll call you back, right? Because they went into this having no information whatsoever. And so even though they have all those questions, they're going to start just jamming your team with questions. And then you're going to answer all those questions and they're going to go, cool, that sounds good. I'll think about it. And then you'll never hear from them again. The people who go out and find that information themselves, what they do is they create their own narrative around the treatment. And this could be really terrible for you as the business owner. I want you to just sometime do a quick Google search for is whatever treatment worth it, and then add the word Reddit at the end, and then just see what comes up and ask yourself, is this information that you would want your leads finding on your own? Like, let's do an example right now. Let's do cool sculpting. Let's do is cool sculpting, can't spell right now, worth it? Reddit. Let's just see what comes up here. Oh, look, there's an article at the top. Is cool sculpting really worth it? The only businesses pushing cool sculpting are the ones that own the machines. They have a 20% satisfaction rate. I had it on my lower belly. It helped minimally. Would not recommend. Are these the type of things that you want your leads seeing before considering potentially getting cool sculpting from you? I mean, this is like majority super negative. There might be like one comment in here that's there might be one comment in here that's actually positive. And so my question to you is that if you have people that are going to go out there and get their answers and do their own research, is that the kind of stuff that you want people finding? Because that's the kind of stuff that's out there on the internet. Okay. And so we need to be the one that provides the answers for them. Okay. So this is key. We need to be the one that provides the answers instead of them going out and finding that information on their own. So if you don't provide the answers, somebody else will. And the result is leads who either know nothing or leads that create their own narrative about the treatment, which could include misinformation, horror stories that people have with that treatment, or genuinely helpful information from other med spas who they then go to decide to go see instead, right? The law of reciprocity says that we feel indebted to those who provide us the most value. And so someone might see that information from another med spa and be like, oh, that was super helpful. Like this company is super helpful. I'm going to go get my treatment from them instead of you, right? We want to be the value dealer. So we want to be the person that's pushing out all the value and providing all the answers to people's questions so that we can create that narrative ourselves rather than them going out and doing their own research and finding answers that don't support your case. I want to give you a perfect example of this. Let's say that you run a cool sculpting offer just to keep the theme of this video here. People submit their name, email, and phone number. These people either don't know the first thing about cool sculpting, they've heard of it before, but know very little about it, which is most people. They have a very basic knowledge of it, or they are ready to buy, right? And that's very few people. You call the leads. Most of them don't pick up because they want more information, but they're not ready to talk on the phone. For those who do pick up, the conversation usually sounds something like this. You go through your whole spiel, you explain the offer to them. They say, "Oh wow, that sounds really great. This sounds like a great offer." And after the offer or after the promotion, what's the cost of cool sculpting? Like how much is that this actually going to cost me? And then you say something like, "Hey, well, our packages range from, 1.5k to 5k completely depending on your goals. We also offer financing options so you can break it down into manageable payments. It might be helpful to find some time for you to sit down with the doctor so they can give you a consultation and a recommendation that's more specific to you. Would that be helpful?" Or maybe you say something like, "Hey, our packages they completely depend on your goals. It might be helpful to find time for you to sit down with the doctor so they can give you a recommendation. Would that be helpful?" So in this example, you're either just giving them a range, or if in this example, you're trying to just dodge the price question altogether. Now, what do they say to that? They're gonna go, "Oh, yeah, no, that sounds great. I don't have my calendar with me right now. Can I call you back?" Or they're gonna go, "Oh, that's totally out of my budget. I'm not interested. Thanks, anyways." Or they're gonna go, "Hey, well, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time by coming in for an appointment without having a general idea of the price." And that's if you try to like dodge the price question. Dang, that sucks. Low quality lead, right? We have a person here who's asking about the price, and they either say it's too expensive, or they ghost the conversation, or they make up some excuse, or they tell you, "I'm not going to book an appointment unless you can tell me the price." Sucks, right? That's what we would deem a low quality lead to be, right? Not so fast, right? I don't want you to just jump to the conclusion that this person is a low quality lead. How do we fix this, right? Imagine the same exact scenario. People submit their name, email, and phone number. They either don't know the first thing about cool sculpting, they've heard of it, or they have a basic knowledge, or they're ready to buy. But this time, as soon as they submit their information, they start consistently receiving valuable information from you. So from your medical spa, they immediately get an email that has the subject line, "Hey, why cheaper fat loss options actually cost you way more?" And then in that email, you explain how if someone's serious about fat loss and body contouring, avoiding cool sculpting in favor of cheaper alternatives isn't just a mistake, but it's an outright waste of time, waste of money, and waste of effort. And then in that email, you explain how the cost of cheaper alternatives tends to add up fast, and you end up getting worse results. So you end up spending more on all these cheaper alternatives that don't work super well, and the results don't look as good. Secondly, cool sculpting is one of the few that's actually permanent, and everything else is temporary. Three, do it yourself or budget treatments typically waste time and lead to a lot of disappointment because the results just aren't as good. Four, what is your confidence worth to you? What are you willing to spend your money on in order to get your confidence back? And so then we end up out that email by saying, "Hey, the smart move is for you to do it once, do it right, and never waste money on alternatives again." And then at the very end of the email, you give a general ballpark of pricing. You stand behind that number proudly, and you say, "We are proud to charge this price because we know that this is one of the best options for you." And then you explain that they need to see the doctor to get a more specific number. Now, when you call the leads, if you can get people to consume that email and actually read it before you call them, you've eliminated price as an objection altogether, right? Imagine if you could pick off every single question and every single objection that someone has before they ever show up to your office. How easy would it be to sell packages and treatment plans? Think about all the questions and objections that people have. How does this work? Is it legit? Does it actually work? What's the pricing? What's the downtime like? All of these questions and objections and fears that people have. Imagine if you could just pick them off one by one by one by one by creating valuable content that you send to people before they ever actually show up. How easy would it be for you, and how easy would it be for your team to sell treatment plans or packages? My guess is it would probably be a lot easier. Now, your question is, won't this scare people away if we send emails that explain how the pricing works and how cool sculpting is a more expensive treatment? Yep, it will. It will scare people away. How awesome is that, right? The people who read that email and then have no intention of investing in themselves or spending money on these types of treatments, we don't want to waste any more time with them, right? Like let's just get rid of them early, right? But the people who read that email and have their price objection obliterated take one step closer to buying. The key here is that they've taken one step. They haven't taken all the steps. They've taken one step. They're not all the way there. So how do we actually get them all the way there? So let's talk about this tactically. First off, what you should do. So let's say that let's just keep with the theme of Cool Sculpting, right? We're just gonna run with that for this video. Let's say that you were running some kind of advertising campaign to Cool Sculpting. What you could do is you could sit down and brainstorm every possible question that someone would have, every single objection that someone would have, or every single expectation that needs to be set before they come in for a Cool Sculpting appointment. Let me show you a really cool tool for this. It's called AnswerThePublic.com. What you can do on this website is you can type in something like Cool Sculpting into the search bar here. And then if I just hit enter, this website is going to tell me every single, oh, I guess I used it too many times today. They give you a certain amount of free searches, but basically what it'll do is it'll tell you every single question that is most commonly asked about Cool Sculpting. And it'll just show you a big list of, hey, here are all the things that people typically ask about Cool Sculpting. Well, there you go. People are Googling that kind of stuff. So you can go make content that answers every single one of those questions. So the first step is to brainstorm every possible question, objection, and expectation that you need to set before someone actually comes in for the Cool Sculpting appointment. Then the second step is to create pieces of content for every single thing that you can think of. And then you need to distribute that content to your leads over time. It's that simple. So identify the problems, questions, objections that people have, create content that obliterates those questions and objections, and then send that stuff out to people over time. The content could be emails, it could be Instagram Reels, it could be text, it could be Google Slide presentations, it could be YouTube videos, it could be pretty much anything. Just create content around that stuff and answer those questions. To create the content, all you really have to do is state what most people think is true, explain why that's terribly wrong, explain what's right instead, and then give proof. In our price example, let's say that we first say most people they think that Cool Sculpting is expensive, or we say like most people usually opt for a cheaper alternative when it comes to fat reduction in certain areas. The reason that that's a really bad idea is because most of these things are ineffective. They don't work super well. Here's a list of what most people try, and here's why it's a huge waste of time, and you end up spending more money on all of these terrible choices rather than just going with the best option. What makes way more sense is to invest in yourself and invest in your confidence by spending the money on a treatment that's going to work the first time so that you don't have to come back and get multiple treatments or try multiple things all the time. And then here's proof that it works. Here's Sally, who came in for a Cool Sculpting treatment. She was a little skeptical about the price, but then she ended up buying, and then it was the best decision of her life. Right. And you can make as many pieces of content using that exact framework for any type of objection that somebody has. A bonus advanced strategy here is called retargeting ads. So these are ads on Instagram. Imagine if you made Instagram and Facebook. Imagine if you made 30 or more Instagram reels that answered all of your leads' most burning questions about Cool Sculpting, for example. And then after they submitted their information on your ad, all they saw for the next week was those reels one by one by one by one, dismantling all of their common questions and objections. How pre-sold would those people be by the time they show up? This is the power of what's called retargeting ads. Basically, we can tell Facebook to only show our ads to people who have either submitted their information but haven't booked an appointment yet, or booked an appointment but didn't have the appointment yet. And then we can just bombard them with content that gets them ready to buy. And so we just pick off each one of those questions and objections and fears and doubts and insecurities that they have. And then we can tell Facebook, hey, go show this content only to the people that have either submitted their information and haven't booked, or they have booked and their appointment just hasn't happened yet. And now they're just scrolling on Instagram and Facebook how they normally would, but then they see your content from 123 Med Spa and they're like, oh wow, I have an appointment with them coming up soon. And then in the video, you're just completely destroying one of their most common objections about Cool Sculpting, for example. Right? Imagine how powerful that could be. Now, this is like a more advanced strategy, but it's absolutely effective. What's the result of all this? Well, instead of dealing with leads who know nothing at all, or leads who do their own research and create their own narrative and look at all of the horror stories that they find on Reddit and all these other websites where it's just all of the people sharing their most polarizing experiences, instead, we create the narrative. Okay, we share the education and the information that breaks their beliefs and takes them one step closer to making a purchase. Okay, this is how you create what's called an objectionless sale. This is how you essentially set it up so that by the time that somebody walks through your front doors, all of their questions have been answered, all of their objections have been handled, and then it's pretty much just a logistical thing at that point. They just need to make sure that they're the right fit for you, and you need to make sure that they're the right fit for you're the right fit for them. And then by that point, it's just a hey, how do you want to pay for this type of thing? And then it's so much easier for you, and it's so much easier for your team to make sales and for them to feel effortless, right? It's so much easier that way. Now, with all that said, if you want 30 qualified consults in 90 days and you only pay us when someone actually shows up, then visit wellnessleads.co, watch the video on that page to get an understanding of exactly what it is that we do. And then if it feels like it could potentially be a good fit, there's a button below that video that you can click and book a time to chat with me personally, and then we'll walk through and just see if it's a good fit. If it's not, no worries, I'll tell you. But if it is, then we could talk about what the potential next steps could look like to build out these systems that I go over in this video for your business specifically. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the next one.